It's been a while since I've done that. I'm only joking. It's the weekly Steelchair podcast. It's back after a hiatus. A deliberate one because we've been busy, but the good thing is it's back on a Saturday. Long-running episodic series has gone from Monday Night Raw, Monday Night Steelchair, Thursday Night Steelchair, whatever you want to do, is now like a throwback. My guest will know this one really well. I'm going to call this one Steelchair podcast. Completely free, completely relevant, with a blast. I'm your host, of course, Reese, joined by my ever-present guest, Ailey. How are you? How's things? And also, you've rebranded. Are you doing a Walk of Elias?
I've not rebranded, and don't worry, I don't suddenly have a pretty much twin coming in. No, what's happened is that WWE Creative have rebranded me. What they said was the name Ailey, no one really knows how to spell it. No one really knows how to say it. Ailey Chambers isn't going to get you over. And I was like, all right, so what, you're going to rebrand me? And they were like, well, we were thinking Eris. So the first thing I did after that was Google Eris, because I'd never heard it before. And apparently she's a Greek goddess. So I'm flattered, but at the same time, I'm also like, okay, I had to Google it. And in that time of me Googling it, they finalized it. They put all the branding through, and here I am now, ring name Eris. But you can call me Ailey. You know, I'd like to remember that I still had an identity once upon a time before I sold my soul to the corporate devil. How are you?
Well, I'm rebranding myself officially. I'll just call myself Satan. But everyone call me Satan, but everyone calls me Reese, so it's a bit of a tongue twister.
I'm Satan with a Y though, because it has to make absolutely no sense.
Exactly. But I'm actually really good. I'm in a good position. I'm relaxed. I'm focused. I'm currently on holiday from work. I'm back next week. Fun enough. So I've just been taking some well-deserved time off. I've been doing other things, but one thing that hasn't disappeared from me, of course, is my passion for this podcast. And obviously, I was taking a little break from it because I wanted to just explore my other hobbies I was doing. But now I'm in full swing of it. I'm on a better time range. Got better availability for you as well, which is great. Weekends are far more better for the two of us. So this is long running. This is a shotgun equivalent. This is right to the end of the weekend. Who needs football? Who needs NBA?
Exactly. No, who needs any of that other stuff? You've got the weekly Steelchair, hopefully back to weekly or near enough. But yeah, no, it's
100%. It's going to be every single Saturday going forward. Every single Saturday at 3:00. No change. No parlor view. This is it. It's concrete, and I'm not diverting anymore. I'm not going to take any more breaks unless I'm catastrophically ill. So, which is not going to happen.
I know all about that at the minute. I mean, 50 minutes before we went live, I've still got the stickers on me. I won't show it because no one needs to see that. But I was unplugging the little heart monitor for an ECG 24 hours. So yeah, been through the run of things a bit, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Because
true.
Is it straight up just annihilate, or are we going to try and come at this from
We're going to come from two angles. We're going to come from it from two angles. And before we do that, obviously, good pal is from the channel and good pal in general, Rach is in here. Hey, y'all.
Hey,
and
hello.
I need football. I need NBA. I need football too, but I need this podcast. This podcast is like my baby. It's mine. And that's the end of it. And of course, the one good thing is we've got good support. We've got good folks going. Ailey, you're pretty much my go-to guest now. Not because I don't want anyone else. It's because we've done so many shows together. We've got good rapport. We're on the same wavelength, more or less. You're more bad cop. I'm sort of good cop.
Yeah, I would say that actually. Yeah, I was sitting before this show really kind of thinking while I was, taking the wires off, I was like, is there anything I can be positive about today? And I'm hoping that there will be at least one bit of praise. But I suppose when it comes to negativity, Chambers, both myself and my brother, when it comes to the content, I suppose we just like to hate sometimes. Sometimes there's just more energy and more passion in finding the problems with something. And I love wrestling, but at the moment, I have to say it's quite tricky, especially with the WWE.
Absolutely. And that's where we're going to look at angles. That's where the angles come from. And I will say, live on air, for the first time, and I mean this, I will not swear. Hopefully Ailey won't either, but I won't.
I'm going to try.
I promise.
I don't know how many times I've swore on these shows before, but I know in the pipe bombs I send you is like, we should talk about this. I swear like a sailor.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping that this will be palatable to your ear holes. So yeah,
it's going to be fine.
Talking WWE, unfortunately.
Yeah, so the two angles we're going to come from is we are going to brutally annihilate the PG era because it deserves to be. And then what we're going to do from a different angle is try to evaluate it's going to be called the TV-14 era. That's what it's called, TV-14. We're going to look at it from that perspective, and we're going to see what sort of long-term effect, what terms of changes, what we would like to see. I've got two things I really want to see, one thing I don't want to see. And after that, we are going to touch on it briefly, but it's going to be like 5 minutes before we wrap up the show. As we will discuss briefly the lawsuit that, well, the lawsuit of lawsuits really is just ridiculous. But me and Ailey backstage were talking about it. We're trying to think how we're going to talk about it. First and foremost, I'm saying this now before we get to it, we completely hope that he suffers. He deserves to suffer, but
he does. Laurinaitis does, and anyone else backstage, be them trainer, active talent, be them a writer, be them the guy that takes out the bin on the 4th floor of Titan Towers. Anyone who's guilty of that stuff should face the ultimate punishment you can face for that stuff. At very least, they should lose their position of power. Even if they are the guy that takes out the bins on the 4th floor, get someone else to do it. These people shouldn't still be in position. We shouldn't be seeing Vince McMahon come out on TV, on Raw and SmackDown, and tell us that we're together. I'm not together with you, Vince. I'm certainly not together with John Laurinaitis either. I'm not together with this, and I'm not on your side. Just because I, these days, vaguely follow what's going on. I'll tune back in at SummerSlam. I watched the little highlight videos just to go, did anything happen? Most of the time it's, no, and I move on.
I watched SmackDown last night. It was okay.
Yeah, but I want to separate what WWE is doing as a show and what they do as a company. I know that my criticisms of the company are not just because I don't like the show. I know that my criticisms of the show have never been just because I don't like the company. They are separate things. I don't like the behavior of the people with the most power in the company. Just from what's come out so far, we don't even know what's coming out beyond that. But I'm not saying that is on par with them taking the black and gold era of NXT away, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen done in wrestling. But the hatred for that is frustration. The hatred for putting anyone, man, woman, or anyone, in that position, in any sort of position where they are uncomfortable, where they feel like they owe you that sort of favor, or where they do that sort of thing for you and then you pay them off. Anything like that, that goes outside of wrestling storylines. That goes outside of TV deals. That goes outside of anything the script. And quite ironically at the moment, WWE, we've been saying over these years, they've just slowly, they've pulled the scripts out. And, you saw the statement when Sasha and Naomi walked out. WWE Raw is a scripted weekly episodic television show. I think it said that word for word.
Mm-hmm.
Now WWE behind the scenes and the highest people in the company, they look like they're from a bad Netflix drama. So in a way, their own operations have been so shocking and so disgusting that they seem like part of Netflix true crime at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we're going to take it from those angles. We are going to take it from those angles. So we are going to start, of course, by the 15, 20 minutes. I think that's a relatively standpoint to get through the PG era, because it's only 2008, 2009 up until now. Like the PG era pretty much took over in 2008, 2009 when they decided that ruthless aggression couldn't cut anymore, which was completely wrong. Like the bloody idiots, they got it completely wrong. But for you as a collective and as a fan, the PG era, I know this might sound like a cliche question or it might sound a little bit vague, but you know I'm not going to make it in that way. I'm going to try and make it a spin that makes it more relevant to us.
Yeah.
The PG era to you, as a standpoint, overall success, overall failure, or would you say there was more lessons to be learned than more lessons to be learned than a success achieved?
So I think it's actually got to go down as more of a success. I think for what WWE were aiming to do, which was continue that establishment as a company, but also they're a brand. You know,
Yeah.
The aim of the PG era was we're WWE and we're basically Disney in a ring. And they've managed that. And some of the guys who came through the Ruthless Aggression era, and even now some of the newest crop, they are huge stars. They are people that are appearing in mainstream things. You talk about probably on the way out, Sasha Banks being in The Mandalorian and being close with Snoop Dogg, and then Snoop Dogg appears on WWE. You're talking John Cena being in countless movies. You're talking about The Rock coming over, and the kids are like, "Oh, I like The Rock in the Tooth Fairy." So then they watch WWE. The Rock gets them there even when he's on the back end of his contract. You've got even people like The Miz on reality TV. You've got star after star appearing on morning and evening talk shows. You know, you get the odd person on a UK talk show, you get the odd WWE star. You're like, okay, why are you on here? But it's that sort of thing. If they're touring the UK, you might see it coming up to Cardiff. I imagine they might put, I don't know, Drew McIntyre on morning TV over here. I think you're right. But I think they'd do it again. And in that sense, the PG era is a success because they took WWE from the biggest wrestling promotion in the world to the biggest wrestling promotion in the world and one of the biggest entertainment brands in the world. So from that standpoint, it's a success. It's a monumental failure in on-screen activity. It's awful, but I want to hear from you, actually, because I'd rather hear the in-ring side from you first. Otherwise, it will be Eris is always so negative. Sorry, that's my tech. I've just referred to my own character. It's always that I'm so negative. So I want to hear from you. The in-ring of the PG era, was it a success or was it a failure? Did it do more or less harm than where the trajectory was going? What are your thoughts on that?
I think from an in-ring perspective, you had some really good work. Probably some of the best work it's seen from a longevity standpoint, from storyline and innovation. But from the success comes the negative, and the negative for me is the reliance on too many past stars, or currently relying on one past star from an era of very much success, consistently going with the top guy of the current era. And as good as that looks on paper, and by all means, it does draw a lot of media attention. It draws numbers, which is what they want. It draws PLE numbers now, since we can't call it pay-per-view anymore because they're pathetic, which really disgusts me.
I think I still say pay-per-view, to be fair. Just
Same. I mean, I'm turning heel now. I look at it from a standpoint. I look at it from a standpoint that they have made so much money, but with money and success becomes a stale product. And for me, the past couple of years, everyone else, bar the odd few, has gone stale. If you're not from the Inoue family, if you're not Brock Lesnar, or you're not, well, if you're not Randy Orton, if you're not Matt Riddle, well, Riddle now, but I'll call him Matt Riddle because I've got a brain. And if you're not Drew McIntyre, maybe a bit of Sheamus. And if you're not Theory, then you've staled. Maybe the Miz or Bobby Lashley, I don't know, but the rest of them have went stale. Even Cena went stale, like still. But even his so-called big return, it was only big for about for the sense of failure. It's added to that because the writers and the creative can't push anyone anymore. And that's why they rebranded NXT to 2.0, which has been both a success and a failure from the same standpoint. In-ring work, fantastic. But storyline, creative, writing, it doesn't have the overall feel that the original had. So they have to go in a different way, and they have to do it based on, well, what's the best product? Oh, we'll be like 1999 all over again. You can't do that in the modern era unless you've got, I put it like, to quote it the best way, you have to have a fever pitch. They don't have it. And that's why they're trying to rebrand to the TV-14, because they're like the organizations against them, the likes of Impact, which has been very consistent for the past 6 months. You've got AEW consistency over shows, whether it be Dynamite or even just Dynamite itself. Like that's a backup plan. You've got pay-per-views are the exact same. It's consistent, it's drawn, but it's central to their program. And it's not just the work, it's the behind-the-scenes stuff. But even they've got their own limits, and we don't really have to discuss that because it doesn't fall in. But their limits are pretty much the same as WWE, except on a lesser budget. WWE's branding is going to take a major hit because obviously they're going to recentral to TV-14. For me, the PG era represents having a good childhood, but you can't get away from that childhood. It's like Peter Pan. You don't want to grow up with the WWE. You want it to stay the same forever. But the problem is, heroes come and go. Villains, as it's coined the term, heroes and villains are always going to come and go. A babyface eventually will have to turn heel. A heel will have to turn babyface. Whether you like change or you don't like change, you've got to roll with the times. WWE are good at that at times. The PG era, for me, rolling with the times, lost some value about 2 or 3 years ago. And now they're trying to do that by focusing on a core group of guys that have a cutting edge. But that's 2 or 3 guys. It's not enough. And that's why I think there's some problems with the PG era moving to TV-14, because you don't have a lot of guys who could be relevant in that era unless you are, fortunately, Roman Reigns, or if you're Brock Lesnar, who have relevancy with the language, the physicality, the work ethic. That's it. That's 2 guys. The rest of them, I'm really concerned about. Some funny thing is, though, is there's one other guy who could actually do really well in this era, and he doesn't even have to do in the ring, and that's MVP. This era is actually, TV-14 is actually perfect for MVP. So there's your third, but, and I don't mean this in a harsh way, right? Because I think the women are fantastic. I'm looking at the women from a TV-14 perspective. and I don't actually know which one's actually going to work, because they don't have the backing that AEW has in terms of we're going to go all barbaric, all in, doesn't matter what happens.
I will say, if they go the same way with the women's division, PG-14, WWE's women's division will only get worse. But AEW are proving that, it's funny you mentioned the women's division and going all in and all barbaric, and it's great for some people that they see people like Britt Baker bleeding a gusher and everyone like that, and Thunder Rosa, the bloodbaths those two had.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I don't want them to all of a sudden just green light. Like, I don't want the PG-14 era to become what happens on AEW. Like, every week Jade Cargill has to say, Tony, cut the... It's every week, and Jade Cargill isn't really getting over through it. I mean, I've never heard anyone say, oh, Jade Cargill's my favourite.
I don't think she's...
And I don't want WWE to turn around and go, well, let's have Doudrop swear now, and that'll get her over, because she's Scottish, and Scottish people swear. That's what I don't want to happen.
Yeah, so I don't want to stay.
I think when you look at when you look at the women that could work for TV-14, I think obviously Rhea Ripley will work. You've got concerns over Bianca Belair. Is she too sort of bubblegum isn't really the word, but is she not dark enough in terms of her character? Is she not like... I realised what that sounded like. Is she not sort of crazy enough for it and like doing hardcore matches and willing to bleed and things like that? But we've never really seen it, so we don't know. And that'll be the case with a lot of the women and the men.
I just realised this is actually good for one person.
Mm-hmm.
You could finally bring back Nikki's NXT character. She excelled in that way. It was more barbaric, more darker. It was more tailor-made. I don't want the stereotypical because she's Scottish. She's a mad cow. No, she ain't. I don't want any of that.
But her and Doudrop could then be a tag team, and they do it.
I just hope they drop that name. I just hope they drop that bloody name.
Well, have you ever Return of the Oddities, but it's just Doudrop and Nikki Cross?
That works. Although you rename Doudrop.
It does. It's a Return of the Oddities.
Exactly. But you know what I mean? Like, and I'm the same with you. And there's one other person I don't want to see get over centralized in this. And this one is, you mentioned Drew McIntyre. I don't want to see the same happen to Sheamus. I don't want to see the same thing happen to an Irish culture as well. I want them to keep it going the way they're doing it, like the way they're doing his character.
The risk that you run with TV-14 is you go for the cheap jokes, and I don't think WWE would get away with doing it, but it doesn't mean they're not going to try.
Yeah.
And that's something, because I mean, credit to AEW, I haven't heard much of that.
Yeah.
Because AEW have the most open goal of open goals for offending people. They've got Sonny Kiss, they've got Nyla Rose, they've got other people whose behaviour is bizarre as well. And it would allow for people to sort of say, well, you do this, you do that, you have a history of this and things like that. Or, you're not like us and things like that, and really making it quite unsavory to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't do that. And the problem is, I feel like it opens a risk for WWE to feel like they can be edgier, and then edgier will turn into more offensive. What I mean by I want edgier is no more segments with cake in them. Don't have a cake go in someone's face. Don't have someone use an air horn and blow it in someone's ear. Don't act like cartoon characters.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing when you leave TV-14. You're looking for, funnily enough, from what I've seen from it, parts of Impact have the perfect feel to their roster. And I don't watch a lot of Impact, but what I've caught of it, the people come across quite genuine. You're like, I can buy into your character and what you're doing. And yeah, you're not the best in the ring, but at least I can believe you would do that.
And look at the way they are branded. Legends against each other. Like Shelley versus Sabin is literally next week's Impact. That's
exactly, and you can believe that storyline because they followed it on. It would be like, I don't know, because WWE split all their tag teams up. It'll be if they ever split up RK Bro. That won't be a split up over, oh, Randy didn't pay me for the last joint. That's what I don't want. I want it to be like Matt Riddle, I'll stress it. I want it to be him going, no, I've come out your shadow. You know, you're holding me back. You're stopping me. I want it to be serious. I want it to feel like an MMA dynamic in that regard. Two guys who both want to prove they're better than the other one. Then they have a match. Two women want to prove they're better than each other. They fight. I think Becky Lynch, this works perfectly for. I think she's about to go into a new, almost platinum wave if she can harness this big time Bex thing and move it to TV-14.
It certainly could work.
Not everyone's going to have that.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously that does tailor-made to a comment that came in 20 minutes ago that makes perfect sense. Even heels have got to be positive sometimes.
Yeah, they should be positive that they're going to beat the face. And they should be positive that they're the best out there. And
exactly.
We've moved away from how simple this used to be. And that's sort of been a trend every time I've been on the show. I've been saying, this can't be that hard. I know it must be really difficult. But certain aspects, like this person's easy to hate because they're arrogant, they run their mouth off, and then they hide when they have to put up. You know, basically everything MJF does, basically everything the best era of The Miz did. That character is easy to hate. And it's not doing anything bizarre. It's just saying, I'm better than you, and then hiding from people who's better than him. Oh.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi was acting up there. It does stupidly do that sometimes.
I was like, if they put me on a solo, they better not.
No, if my Wi-Fi does go though, I can still get back in, but I still trust you to run this place like a proper heel anyway. So I trust you.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, it would only be for a few moments anyway. I'll just get back in. It really does. I don't know why it does that, but it does do it. But just going back on like where we were. So obviously we literally said we're going to do about 15, 20 minutes. We've actually done that. So now we're going to roll into what we want to see and what we don't want to see. We're basically covering it to an extent, but now we're just going to deep dive it. For you, I'm not sure what you think about this, but what I want to see is you mentioned edgier. Well, I want to see certain gimmick matches return. I know this might sound funny, but I want to see the First Blood return. I want to see a Buried Alive match done again. I want to, not to an overall extent where they do it every single year, but they do it as a conclusive for select feuds. That actually you can actually believe into it. If it's not just somebody that just doesn't work, then you can believe into it. But I think certain gimmick matches have to come back for this TV era to work. Otherwise, it just doesn't have substance. You need to have some gimmick matches that didn't work in the PG era in the new TV era that's central and more mature.
I get that. I think First Blood's a mistake.
Go on.
So the reason First Blood used to work is how many people hit a knee in the 90s? How many people were even using elbows to the face in the 90s? It wasn't really that. It was kick, punch, arm drag, headlock, really tidy stuff, suplexes, really sort of, that looked impactful. But it was less based on strikes in the West. Obviously, Japan still had the strong style, the striking going on.
But they're technical.
The US didn't really get there yet. I mean, WCW obviously showcased some of it, but the guys on top in the Attitude Era were grapplers and the sort of powerhouses. They weren't these strikers, these, I can get you one punch, because we see it too often nowadays that a knee or an elbow will be hit in the second or third minute of a match and someone's lip will bleed or someone's nose will start bleeding. I don't think First Blood works. I would love to see Buried Alive come back. I think it's better than Last Man Standing. Because Last Man Standing, someone just lies there for 10 seconds. Buried Alive, if they're in a hole, you don't have to worry about them getting back up. They're already in the hole. So I think Buried Alive will work. Well, I wonder about bringing back the gimmick matches and moving to TV-14. So TV-14, as it works, I imagine, is still like a parental guideline. Obviously, there's no way to police if kids are watching it.
Correct.
But does that mean they now stop pushing everything towards kids? Like completely?
Yeah, they will be. So you'll still have some employees that are going to be geared towards children because they're already in that stage. You cannot change them. But then you'll have individuals you think maybe are a little bit too much for this era, and we'll push them towards more like 18 to 36 range, and that works.
It does, but how do WWE then give themselves that facelift to the wider public? What can you do to convince fans or jaded fans, former fans even, who have known WWE for the last decade as the baby wrestling company, the wrestling company that does TV for babies? How do they give themselves that facelift that quickly? Because you can't have that both ways.
No, you can't. And funnily enough, Jamie actually does reiterate a comment. Funnily enough, he did say earlier on was the edge in the booking. And the good thing is, it does tie into this. And we mentioned this earlier on. This is going to happen. There is going to be blood at SummerSlam in that Last Man Standing, and I think there's going to be more blood than this than the unscripted event from Lesnar Orton. Part of that was scripted, part of it went completely wrong because it's Lesnar. This time though, they are going to go full in. You cannot have a last man standing between these two where there is virtually no tailor-made, you have to battle them. This match cannot go for 15, 20 minutes. This has to go at least 30 for the two. I know that sounds a bit too long, but I'll explain why it has to go at least 30. It has to go that period of time because you've got the condition of the two of them. You've got the believability in both as athletes and gimmicks that they are the top two going. But you have to have the longevity because you can't beat Brock Lesnar in less than 5 minutes unless you're Bill Goldberg, because it's Bill Goldberg. And Roman Reigns in matches like this, with like a last man standing with Kevin Owens, which was completely disgusting because he got cheated, you can't have that for 25 minutes either. Roman Reigns, in terms of like the stamina, the work ethic, the believability in the Inoue family, like they outwork. They've got the headstrong believability about them, like King Haku. You've got like the Rock's longevity for like the Iron Man match for an hour, which nobody believed in. You have to give Reigns the 30 minutes as well because it's going to take so much out of him just to beat Brock, and it's the same for Brock to beat Reigns. If you do this match in 20 minutes, you kill believability in. Well, what's the point? You kill it. And it's going to go in a different direction from the first WrestleMania match we had at WrestleMania 31. It's going to be completely different because at least it's going to have central focus to the two of them. Brock's going to feel more comfortable with the booking. Roman at least is going to feel like, well, finally I get to be a little bit more myself rather than some guy who goes, acknowledge me. Like, you get something out of this for the two of them. That's why for me, you have to give them at least 30 minutes. If you can't, even if you went say 27, like 26, 27 minutes, that's okay. But you cannot have a last man standing between these two, top of the booking, top of the range. You cannot have this less than 25 minutes because then there's no believable factor that a last man standing works.
It sounds like a match that was formed in my own personal hell. A 25-minute match between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is a freak of an athlete, but what's his conditioning like? How can he go 25 minutes like that? There's going to have to be a lot of interference.
Well, he's done 25-minute matches before, like the past decade. Like he's done 25 minute
I know,
matches.
but how many of those 25-minute matches has he actually had that intense a match to have? You know, if you look at some of his longest matches, some of the longest matches he's been involved in, I vividly remember one of them where he was put through a table and forgotten about for 10 minutes and then came back and won it.
Yeah, the fatal four-way.
So, yeah, and there's 4 guys in that match, you know? When it comes to 1v1s, who's he gone the longest amount of time with? It's been the technical wrestlers. Roman Reigns is not a technical wrestler.
He did go 30 minutes inside Hell in a Cell with Undertaker. Twice.
Yeah. How much of it was selling?
The first time selling, it was at least 85%, I think. Because that was when Taker was actually, like, in terms of movement, he was definitely at his best. But that
Remember, a Taker match at that time.
Whereas 2015 was
the late Taker matches, you're dealing with Taker having to take a minute or two after every big bump to sort of. He's not going to get. I hope they don't do that with Roman Reigns because it's bad enough that I need to see the match. If they try and draw it out, because they're already selling it as like a big epic. This will be the ultimate test for both of them. This will be the ultimate test. Is this match actually good once? Because I think, has it now been 9? Is this number 10?
I think this is the 10th.
This is the 9. I think it might be the 10th match they've had against each other.
I'm going to double check because I'm pretty sure this is going to be there.
When you think about when the first one was. Like it's
WrestleMania 31.
Yeah, it's sickening that in that amount of time, and they've never had a good one. It's never been good. So will this one at SummerSlam be good? It'll have to be because they've put everything behind it. You know, they're saying this is the rivalry of the decade. That on its own is quite depressing to hear. That it's been the rivalry of the past decade in WWE. Like, they're probably right, but it's just sad when you look at all the talented wrestlers they have.
Yeah. You're not going to like this, by the way. See, in terms of one-on-one matches, they've went up against each other 5 times one-on-one, but they've had, at the moment, 7 matches. This is going to be either 8th, and it's going to be the 6th one-on-one. They had the 2 triple threats, 1 fatal 4-way, and then they had the 5. You had like the SummerSlams, the Greatest Royal Rumble. You had the WrestleMania matches plus the fatal 4-way SummerSlam, like the fatal 4-way SummerSlam. So this is going to be the 8th match between Lesnar and Reigns in a
that feels
7-year time process. 7 years
on itself because I thought they'd fought more than that. Just shows like, you know, they all blend into one big thing for me. I'm just like, no. I mean, they've ruined several shows on their own for me because I was quite enjoying. Was it Greatest Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
You had the cage match, and that really annoyed me because it was just a bad match. And
it was an insult to Umaga and Bobby Lashley as well.
Exactly, because they were like, "Oh, we have to do this spot." Like, you don't. It's stupid. Like, don't don't repeat that spot. It's classic when they did it. It's clear what you're trying to do. Oh, if we break the cage, it'll get Roman over. It didn't.
Exactly.
So there's definitely. I have my doubts. I have my doubts over it. I will watch SummerSlam, and I may even attempt to watch its main event.
Yeah. And the only thing for us though is after SummerSlam, there's no pay-per-view until Clash of the Castle, which we're going to.
We are. Not together, but we have.
No, we are going though. You're going with your brother. I'm going on my own.
All right.
I'm going on my own, but I'm in the same block as you, and I'm also in the same block as a friend of mine that I know from another podcast. So like, at least I will, even though I'm on my own, I will at least know people at the venue. So at least but that'll be good fun. But I'm buzzing for it. But we're not here to talk about Clash of the Castle, although me and Ailey up to Clash of the Castle. It won't be on the Saturday because obviously we'll be in Cardiff because it's a 3:00 start. But when we get to the Clash of the Castle period, so it'll be around the end of end of August and the start of September, we will do a preview show for that, and then what we want to see, like what we look forward to. But that's next month, so we're not going to get to that.
We should do. I think we should do a fantasy booking, like each come up with a match card that we'd want to see because it's in the UK. Because we're going to be at it live, I think the idea of like, okay, let's build the dream Clash at the Castle.
Let's do it.
Even
we'll
if
do
we
that. We'll do that on next week. We'll do that on next week's show. We'll do that on next week's show. I think that'll be good fun.
Maybe wait till after SummerSlam in case Brock wins.
Yeah, good
I don't think he will, but in case he does.
Me neither. But on the back of that, so we've discussed the gimmick matches, and obviously we've discussed this. There's one thing I don't want to see, but I have a feeling you may have the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this to you, open floor. What do you not want to see? And if it's the same thing as mine, I will do thumbs up or I'll do thumbs down. Classic evolution.
All right.
If I have the same thing, I'll do thumbs up and I'll think of something. If I don't, I'll do this. So at least we're good. But one or two things on your mind, or that you have coming into this new era, change of effect. Is it a setup for failure? Could it be a success? What do you not want to see when creative changes from Raw? Because it's not going to happen with SmackDown yet because it's on the Fox network. But for the USA network, of course, for us, obviously, it's BT Sport. But from that sense, though, a creative standpoint or creative edge or change of culture in that way, what do you not want to see going forward?
Well, anything problematic, I think I've already touched upon that. Don't want to see people getting attacked for anything that's just not okay these days. That's not a wrestling thing. That's a culture thing. I wouldn't be comfortable seeing people attacked for their race on a wrestling show. I wasn't comfortable watching it retrospectively when it was the norm. I wouldn't be comfortable seeing it now. As well as that, when you come out, I don't want PG-14 to just mean blood. I don't want it to just be, oh, we're going to bleed now, No, because we want edgier content. That doesn't mean we want it to be like Kevin Owens is having an affair. Like, I don't care. I really don't want to see that. So no affair storylines, no attacking anyone for the race or anything like that. I don't want it to just mean blood. I mean, AEW's got an awful habit for that. It's like, well, we're edgy. We've got lots of blood to spill. It's like, yeah, I don't care. I see too much blood, on wrestling these days. I think outside of that, I don't know. I think I've actually touched upon the main ones. So you can go ahead and reveal what's your big...
I don't want to see matches generalized to Vince's predictions. I don't want to see him attempt to bring back classics that involve matches that generalize certain people, especially gender. I don't want to see that in this new era, because you just know in his office, the creepy, past it human being will be thinking, okay, Natalia looks good. Let's remove a few things. I don't
you don't want the brand panties matches to come back.
Not a chance.
Totally
I don't
definitely don't want to see that.
I don't want to see stuff like that return because he thinks it's 1999 to 2003 all over again. I don't want that.
That's the main theme of it. We want TV-14, but do it now. So make it edgy. Do things like some of the stuff I've seen on Impact, like AEW have rarely gotten right. And most crucially, and if I mention it one more time, someone in the comments is going to find where I live and come here with a sniper. Make it like Black and Gold NXT.
I like that.
Black and Gold NXT was by a PG era company. I wouldn't say that was. It didn't scream PG era show. You know, when you have the likes of Tommaso Ciampa, the most hated wrestler in the world at that point, you had Aleister Black's dark cultish antics. You had, you know, Undisputed Era were very sort of unhinged. They weren't like, oh, we're the heels and we're just going to be really obnoxious. I was like, no, we're the best. You know, that's what we're here to do. And if this is a move to make Raw the new Black and Gold NXT, I'm all on board. If they're going to do feuds like that, if they're going to have storylines like that, if they're going to simplify what a feud means, what a story means, if they're going to get rid of the 24/7 championship forever, if they're going to do things like that and go back to being a wrestling show, that would be the dream outcome.
And hopefully they drop Carmella.
They won't do that. She's got, well, if it actually is it is the case, right? She's with Corey Graves now.
Yeah, drop him too.
They got married.
Yeah, drop him too.
I like Corey. I think Corey's good on that. I told you I would say something positive on this show. There you go. I like Corey Graves. Beat that.
Pat McAfee's better. You can't argue with that, soul sister. You can't argue with that.
That's true. I actually can. Pat McAfee.
You tried.
I like Corey Graves. I like Corey, and I don't think those two would work as an announce team because you'd need someone to play it.
You need Michael Cole.
Yeah, you couldn't have Pat McAfee and Corey Graves because I think those two would genuinely want to kill each other. Pat McAfee's so excited all the time, and Corey Graves plays a great heel announcer.
I agree. It works so well.
So good. And he's not like, well, I hate this person because you do. He's always got like another reason. Like it was when FTR, they weren't that in that company. When the former FTR, the Revival, were doing
we call them FTR. It's okay.
We call them FTR because now they get treated like a tag team and not a joke.
Exactly.
So when FTR were feuding with Lucha House Party and it was 3-on-2, the thing was the fans were meant to like Lucha House Party. But Corey Graves, I remember being so good because they always go, this is 3-on-2, this is cheating. They're just cheating, these three. And I was like, he's right. He's actually right. Like, you know, so I really like Corey Graves for that sort of thing. But yeah, I could do without Carmella, but does it mean that she can now cry in the matches? Like, because that's one of the things I hate about watching Carmella wrestle. 1, 2, kicks out. Ah! Less of that.
I know what you mean. I don't want to see her being so like cliche. I want it to have like I want to see what she can do in a more mature sense. But she's another one I've got the fear for because in all things, right, I'm not a big fan of her. But I have eyes. Like she is a very beautiful human being.
Yeah,
that would be Vince all over. That would be Vince all over. He would be like, "You are my SmackDown equivalent. I've got you with so for Raw. So you're my Raw equivalent. We've got Natalia. We'll just cross these both together. And you know Vince would. He would have intergender brand panty matches if he could with those two. Because you've literally got Definement meets Can We Stop a Cultural Classic. You've got one of the best in terms of consistency and longevity versus Carmella.
Yeah,
and I'm not a Natalia fan, but I have to give her a minute.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for progression. I still don't think WWE would ever do intergender brand panty matches. I don't necessarily think they'll see that. I'm not sure you realised.
It's Survivor Series 2022.
I really hope not. I mean, you know, if someone
I don't want this to happen,
I'm the very last person who's going to hate on anything like that. But mark my words, if they start using, if they bring back the dress match, I might stop. I might stop watching WWE for good if they start going, what? They're putting him in a dress. Like, that might be my out, because I'm fed up of seeing that used as a joke in anything, but especially wrestling.
Tell you what else I don't want to see happen, because they did do it for a long time years ago. When it gets to Christmas time, I think you know where I'm going with this. What they used to do to the women was beyond a joke. I hope that doesn't happen now, because it hasn't been like that for a long time, and I'm very glad about that. I don't want to see this happen now. I want them to keep going. Like, even if it's Christmas time, you're still in your proper attire and you're still wrestling. You can do 10 women tag team matches.
That's what I mean. Be edgier, like, funnily enough, Fight Club.
You can have the matches that work, but you don't have to have them wearing skimpy clothing. It doesn't have to be like that.
Think about things like Fight Club, where those people all thought they were like really cool, but they were all like, it was street fighting.
Exactly.
I'm just going off what I've seen of it.
No, you're right. That's how it should be.
It's like street fighting, and I'm not saying everyone has to come out in jeans and a t-shirt. That's CYN's issue. Is everyone comes out in street clothes and you don't know who's who. But I've only seen one video of CYN, and hopefully I'll never mention it again.
One's enough.
Yes. But yeah, that's I want it to be like, yeah, they're still doing wrestling. So yeah, they're still being wrestling gear. Yeah, you've still got a bit of the showmanship of it, but it should still boil down to who's better. And if there is an issue outside of who's better, it should be you stole this from me. You know, NXT were doing a great job of a thing. In 2.0. They were doing a great job of making a feud serious until they didn't. And it was when Cora Jade stole all the titles off Toxic Attraction.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
This could be great. And then they blew it off with some comedy skits.
And turning a certain individual
trapped in a bin, and one of them got stuck behind a fence that they couldn't climb over. And then Mandy Rose found Cora Jade in her car. So Cora Jade was going to steal Mandy Rose's car. And then they beat her up, and I think slammed her on a different car or just down in the parking lot. They got the belts back and they left. And I'm like, she took the belt. She could have had, like, the traps could have been cooler than that. It could have been like luring them, and then she just, I don't know, beats them up, you know, like a wrestler should do. Exactly. Or if it is a case of outsmarting them in a way that beats them up. Don't just, you're in a bin, ha ha ha. Like, no. So that was, that's the thing that I'm hoping we're leaving behind in PG era. And I'm hoping TV-14 is a bit more, how would this person really act? No, how would this corny character perform in this scene? That's what I don't want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We are coming to, obviously, this, like, the weekly armchairs are undergoing a fantastic process and fantastic change as of late. And I'm really proud of the channel. And we've got some upcoming stuff, so I thought I would just do that for the channel in terms of where we're at right now. Like, fantastic work we're doing with interviews that you should really check on the channel's content. So for anyone that is watching, of course, we do appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And also any past content you may have missed, including previous episodes of the Weekly Steelchair, has been on a slight hiatus, but is now back every Saturday. Please do give them a watch. Obviously, the NBA podcasts are coming back soon. The ones hosted by Ailey's brother, Greg, obviously, Rach and Tim, they're on their way back. We do have like interviews done by Mark and Keane, which are absolutely fantastic football content if you're interested in that. But as we are coming towards the end of the show, we will be going for about another 4.5 to 5 minutes. We briefly we touched on it, I should say, at the very start of the show, and we are going to end it in the same manner. First of all, disclosure, I am fully against the actions of Vince, John Laurinaitis, certain trainers, backstage workers, writers, cameramen, the lot. I am against their behaviour. I'm all for the lawsuit against them. And I know Alias as well, but we are going to touch up on this because it is a very serious conversation. And the reason I think it's more than a serious conversation is, and it was also something that Alias said, is what I believe, and I agree with her, is. And it's the thumbnail for the show, and I'm just going to bring it up right now. And if you look to the words in question, you'll see exactly what I mean. And this is for everyone in question to look at. So I'm just going to bring it up now. And it's the wording. My edit, by the way, because I'm an absolutely amazing artist. Four horsemen, just kidding. Four pinnacles, 4 giants. But the tagline there, if you can see it in red, says, a change in attitude or a change set for failure. Now, the reason that I've said change set for failure is because one man will use this as a way to justify his behaviour, and that is Vince McMahon. And because of that, I do have some fears that the new creative edge could fail, because it gives him a chance to be himself with that. He can use that to exploit others and get away with it because it's a creative pitch. And that's my fear. But I'm not trying to dwell on that because I really want this era to work for the actual in-ring competitors and for the writers, because the writers have been, I nearly swore, but I'm not going to, I promise I wouldn't, have been rubbish for years. So this, unless you're Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar, who has very good writing. Just as we do wrap up the show, Ailey, I'm going to give this one all to you. I'm going to give it all to you to close the show, because that's what heels close it better than a babyface, right? I am The Rock. He's definitely the heel Steve Austin before it failed. Like, at least we got something here. We'll call you by your heel name. So, Eris. As we close the show, generally, what do you think about this one? Do you think it is Vince's justification, or do you think there is something else to it? But just your closing thoughts on the lawsuit and the long-term effect of it.
Well, WWE revealed themselves as a boys' club with everything that's going on here, you know, like a frat house. And your question's an interesting one, because I hadn't thought of it that way, but the timing is really weird. So at first, I thought the timing was like, okay, we'll get rid of the PG era because people are crying about Vince McMahon's behaviour. This will distract the fans. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a distraction. You've actually brought up that maybe it could be more malicious. It could be, we act this way because we don't care about your kids anymore. You know, you know, I mean, what Vince at this age, is he going to come back to being on screen? Like, is he going to be that brazen about it? Will he come out and cut a promo like, yeah, I did it and I'd do it again? Are we going there? Can today's world accept that? I mean, WWE, even if that happens, wouldn't be the edgiest thing on television ever in history. But it would be problematic for sponsors. And WWE still like their money. So I really don't know. You've really made that interesting there. I think they could be using it as a diversion, as going like, well, yeah, we did it. I guess we're not kid-friendly anymore. That's quite interesting.
At least you see my fear.
You've opened this heel's eyes, so you have. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be a rapid turn like the Big Show, but you at least made me admit that, yeah, you could have a point on it being sort of just, yeah, we are now this. We are not your kid-friendly company anymore. I hope that's not what they're doing, though.
Me neither. Me neither. And we are going to close the show in just a minute, but I just wanted to say to my esteemed guest, thank you once again for coming back on. Before there, thank you very much for coming back on. It really is a pleasure. Every Saturday, 3:00, this channel will be producing the weekly Steelchair. Every Saturday, 3:00, I am back. No change, none of that. Unless I'm on holiday and I can't make commitments, or Clash of the Castle when I'm going to be there, but I might do a vlog. Never done a vlog before, but I think that'd be great fun. We can post on the channel. Also, I'll need to cut it down, of course, but it'll be great. And maybe get some cheeky pinfalls in there. Who knows?
I promised to put pipe bombs up there, but I think your channel would be taken down. Like the whole channel would be taken down very much, I swear. But if that's the sort of thing people want to hear, my little takes on things and shorts like that, I could probably manage to shoot something without swearing that much. You know, we haven't actually touched upon the name changes in today's show, and I think that's been for the best, because I've actually felt quite positive about this. Maybe this Eris persona is perhaps a little more positive after all.
Who knows? But what we will do is, because the TV era, they got their dates wrong because they're pathetic. The TV-14 era doesn't change next Monday.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't. They had it changed for the 18th, but they got one thing wrong. They forgot the July 18th Raw is in Florida. July 25th is Madison Square Garden. The changes will happen July 25th. So the world's most famous arena, coin a phrase, consistently coin a phrase, that's where they will do the changes. That's when we're going to discuss the name changes. That's when we're going to discuss our initial periods on the final Raw of the PG era. And also, for next week's show, we're going to end it with a quiz.
That old chestnut's coming back, is it?
I am bringing a quiz for next week that is universal. I'm going to try and get Keen on as well, because obviously Keen still claims he's the champ of this channel because he's never been beaten a quiz yet. It's because I've not done a quiz, but I'll beat him if I have to. But I'm going to try and get him on because I'd like to get his opinions as well.
I'll write a quiz for the two of you.
I'd be all right with that if you're up for it.
We can settle your differences, special guest referee style.
I will do that then. I will bring that to Keen next week if he's up for it. Me versus Keen, 1-on-1, and I'm taking his title. But it's a goodbye from me. It's a goodbye from Ailey. This has been the Weekly Steelchair podcast. And what's another way of saying bye?